Breaking the Spirit of Overwhelm, Part 2. So I was really excited and amazed when God took me to a whole nother level after I had done the video on Monday. I was spending my quiet time with God, and the Lord revealed to me another component. So I want to share that with you because you've been on this journey with me. He reminded me of two more incidents that related to the abuse. Now, if you missed the first video on this, you need to go back and listen to the one that was on Monday. And today is Wednesday. And so go back and look at that, and you will see that this is just continuing on. And so this revelation God gave me took me to a whole nother level of emotion. So let's go back and look a little bit at kind of what we've done in this journey. First of all, I identified what was not right with me, and I even put a name to it. Even if you don't have an official name, even just the symptoms will work. For whatever spirit is causing those symptoms is the one you're addressing. So for me, I just called it overwhelm because it seemed like I would be so overwhelmed that I couldn't move forward and do some of the things that I needed to do. And so that's what I called it. I called it overwhelm, and I called it a spirit of overwhelm because it's kind of been hanging around me for some time. And to me, that's a spirit. But anyway, that's where I'm looking at it, right? And so then I spoke it out. And so not only because I've been thinking it a long time, but nothing happened as long as I was thinking it. So I needed to say it. And so I said it to myself. I journaled it, and then I got on here and I shared it with you. Now, I'm not recommending to everybody to get online and share your more painful experiences with people. But for me, I was called by God to share my story, and I know that. I live out of Isaiah 61 or Luke 4:18 through 19, and it says this: "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, and to preach the acceptable year of the Lord." That's what I'm about. And so therefore, what I'm doing just lines up with what God has called me to do. Now, if you're going to share it, and instead of doing it online like I'm doing, you can share it. Find a safe person that you can share it with that you know is going to be an appropriate person. If you're not sure that they're safe, don't share it with them. And you can do the same thing of getting it out, because we have to speak it out. We can't hold things in, because I'll tell you, the enemy gets inside our head and plays around, and that is no place for him to be. And he has a tendency to beat us up with our own thoughts that are running around in our head. And we think it's us thinking certain thoughts. And really, I think most of it is him. At least that's what I have found in my life. And then once we realize these thoughts are running around, we can take those thoughts captive. It says that in 1 Corinthians 2:16, 1 Corinthians 2:16 says we have the mind of Christ, and we do. And we have the ability to take things captive. 2 Corinthians 10:5, we cast down imaginations and all high things that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. That is what we have to do. And that is what we should want to do. Then we can be free, right? And so the power of this revelation that was released to me as I journaled, literally the Holy Spirit revealed to me two more incidents that had happened that caused me to be in that place of overwhelm. And I had a little inkling that there was something that I was missing because I didn't have any emotion. And usually when you're dealing with something that you're pulling out from the past, it's an emotion attached. There's emotions attached to it, because if it wasn't, you would have done it a long time ago, right? And I would have as well. And so as I looked at those two incidents, and I won't share those on here, they're a little bit personal. And so as I did, and they were about my childhood, they were about the physical, emotional abuse that I had shared with you that I had gone through. And so as a result of that, I started realizing that, oh, okay, this is where it's at. And so as soon as I started dealing with that and looking at that, that's when the tears started coming up. That's when the emotions started coming up. And that's when I knew that I had finally gotten to the heart of the matter. And so he clarified to me that there was a spirit of trauma that was associated with it, that was at the root, showing itself as overwhelm. There is no doubt that overwhelm accompanies trauma. And so after this revelation, I knew I'd finally gotten to that hurt and pain that was deep inside that was still keeping me kind of stuck where I was at in dealing with overwhelm. And so after I cried for a little bit, calmed down, I had learned that I have learned in the past that when you are dealing with releasing a trauma that you've been through, in that environment, when you visualize yourself in that environment, you look around and you find out where Jesus was. He's there somewhere. Why do we know that? Because he says he will never leave us or forsake us. That's Hebrews 13:5-6. And so when we know that, then we can look for him in that environment. And so I just closed my eyes and visualized that situation. I looked for him. And when I found where he was at, then I knew that he had been there and he was there protecting me from further harm. And I'll tell you, that made me feel good. And so I encourage you that, to bring your issues out of the darkness and bring it into the marvelous light of the Lord so you can also be free from the things that are holding you back. And I'll tell you there's no greater feeling than to be free. I've been more excited the last few days. I've been able to get more done. I'm not so easily overwhelmed. I just move on, even if something doesn't quite go the way I want it to go, I'm still moving forward and I'm getting more done in a day than I was getting done before. And so I know that this is working. So, and I don't know what else God will reveal to me because he reveals it to you in layers. And so you don't always know what's going to come up next. But this is what I know. What he brings to the surface for us is going to help us to walk that path of freedom versus being in the darkness and being in this hidden place and staying stuck. So anyway, I encourage you to grasp this for yourself. If you want any assistance with it, you can message me and reach out, and I'll be glad to help you. You can click on the link, put a note in there, and touch base with me on Facebook or whatever. I'll be glad to interact with you. So anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you for being here in the know with Deborah O on what were we talking about? We were breaking the spirit of overwhelm, part 2. Bye for now.